Welcome back. It's Friday, and it's time to talk about what we learned this week with Nene and Fitz. The three of us are here, and well, it's just two of us. I don't know who the other three of us are.
I was like,
the mouse in my pocket. Okay.
Sounded good.
So we're gonna do our thing this week and talk about what we learned.
Yeah.
And
am I going first?
Was it difficult for you to come up with it this week? It's not like, it's funny because it's not like we don't learn. We're constantly learning,
right?
Constantly learning. But sometimes the lessons are small, or it's interwoven throughout the week with a bunch of different things, and you're trying to like
micro lessons.
Yes, little micro lessons.
No, I agree. It was definitely not that it was hard, but I think when I walked in here, you mentioned that your schedule has gotten more full.
Yeah.
And so mine too. We're sort of switching into fall mode here, which people start to come inside a little bit more, and so it's been a little bit busier on my end too, scheduling fall art classes and things. And I noticed that this week I on the way over here, I was like, oh, what did I learn this week? But I know what it is. It's
did I learn to pay more attention during the week so I can remember what I learned?
Well, I know
that'd be one of them.
Yes, but it was definitely one of those things where I thought, there's one that's on my mind, and I just wasn't sure if I should really talk about it, but I'm going to.
Okay. Well, I can start this time.
Yeah, please do.
So I guess. So one thing that I have and you I'm sure have some experience with this as well as being an entrepreneur, is you're responsible for collecting your payment from clients, whether it is whatever you're doing. You don't have a team of people that go and say, hey, you're late on your invoice. You don't have a collections department.
No, nobody's going to break anyone's knuckles.
Right. Vinny and Tony are going to come down and.
What is it? They like pound their fists.
Yeah. That would be great. That would be so great if I had, but I don't have that. And so a lot of what we do is based on sort of a mutual understanding between client and vendor that you're going to pay in a reasonable amount of time. Sometimes it's on the invoice, like net 30. You got to pay the invoice in 30 days. But dealing with some larger companies, there's a lot of red tape. There's a lot of different departments, and it's not as easy as saying, okay, I'm going to pay you, and the guy writes a check and they send it to you.
Right.
A lot of times there's all different kinds of just rigmarole that you have to deal with.
Like it's every 2 weeks or something like that. Or like you have to do make W-4s and things like that.
Well, no. So this one, in this particular case, I have a client who is a new client. It's an old account, but the account has gone through many different subcontractors, and the people that bring me the account have moved through all these different, they're like kind of like a group of freelancers that go from they're like freelance locusts kind of in a way. But anyway, the loyalty that I have with those people brought this account back to me through a different company. So now I have to go through the whole W-9, filling out all their vendor forms and everything that you have to do. This particular company has just this really convoluted, very complex way of submitting an invoice. A lot of them, I just email my invoice, and then in 30 days, there's a check in the mail, right?
Yeah.
This one, it's like you have to go, you have to log into this system. You have to pick
another
portal. Yes, it's a portal.
Say no more. There's a portal.
And so I'm having to go into this portal, and it isn't just as simple as uploading your invoice. You have to upload the invoice, and then you have to submit each line item. It's like, why is there even an invoice when I'm basically creating a second invoice within their system? Anyway, long story short, too late. It's
it's interesting though to me. I'm interested in how people's business gets handled. This is a nuisance.
First time, the payday came and went, and so I looked in that portal, and it said, invoice was rejected. I'm like, what? God. So I contacted, and the people have been really good. They're like, oh, we don't know what's going on. Let's try it again. And got on a Zoom call, walked me through the whole process
it's a
again.
waste of time.
No,
See,
it is.
It's
it is.
huge.
It's
This is
too-
where I'm going with this. It's like
every minute spent doing this is minutes
not
you
doing
know,
what you should be doing.
right, and technically it's reducing my
Your productivity time.
and how much I'm spending with that company and not getting paid for it. So anyway,
Yeah.
but I'm like, all right, this is the first time. There's a learning curve. There's a lot of work ahead. So, I'm not gonna, you gotta be nice. You gotta be smart about it. You gotta know how to, you can't be all like, gotta pay me now.
No, but
We go through it.
yeah.
We do it again. And I'm like, so, and this is already well past the 30 days. We're at 45, maybe even 50 days. I'm like, is there any way you can expedite this? Because you're already 20 days late. Well, it's going to, sorry, but it goes through the system the way it goes through the system. I'm like, all right, fine. First one, I'll give it to you. Check in 2 days ago, rejected again. And I'm like, what?
And they did it with you? Like you
And the guy did
it with you.
And so I sent an email. I'm like, all right, it's rejected again. Unfortunately, I'm going to need this payment immediately. Maybe you can pay with a credit card. And until this is resolved, I can't do any more work for you.
Fair.
And there wasn't any work on the table at that point. But literally the same day, one of the people in a completely different department had no idea this was going on, sends me, hey, we've got 25 more scripts to do. And I'm like, seriously? So I'm like, I really appreciate everything you've done for me, and I appreciate our relationship, but unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do this job until this gets resolved. And I went through the backstory, and it was amazing. She went right.
That's where I was going to
She
say.
sent emails out to everybody, and she's like,
let's get it done.
You got to get this done because our deadline for the next project is up in the air, and this has to get done.
They need you. So I have learned not to deal with portals.
Sometimes you have no choice.
No, there's always a choice.
Really? Mm-hmm. Explain that to me.
So
you just don't do the work?
So I'm going to give you a perfect example. Well, sometimes if it comes to that, I have to make a decision. How much of a pain in the butt is this? But even just the other day, so I had a claim, I think in August, my furnace and my air conditioning both needed to be replaced.
August was a complete shit show for you.
So, but I got my insurance policy, wanted me to submit. I submitted, me, minute one, the guys left and I submitted this thing to my insurance company, my insurer, my insurance policy. Shout out Wyatt at Adirondack. Anyway, it's not a good show unless I shout out to somebody. Anyway, I sent it to him, minute one. He forwarded it to the insurance adjuster. I spoke with Consuela, who then, told me everything was cool. And she said I was going to, get the payment. And the next thing I know, it's just like you said, 2 weeks have gone by. And so I called my insurance guy and I was like, hey, what's going on with this thing? And he called. And then this guy said, oh, you have to go into this portal and you have to do all this stuff.
You've got to go into the multiverse.
Right. You have to go in, go in. And I just said, and so I said, this is literally what I said. They said that they didn't get a signature from the person who installed, and so that I would need to submit something through the portal, and it was all going to need to go through the portal. And so I said, I called my insurance guy, and I said, here's the thing. Here's the way it's going to go. See? Here's the way. I am one woman. There are 3 guys. This should be figured out in 35 seconds. Are you going to make me do it? Because my guy over there, the person who put in this system, he knows nothing about this. You haven't communicated properly. And if you want me to do it, we can do this properly, but it's not going to be through the portal. We can resolve this so there's no more back and forth emails, but it's not going to be through the portal. And my insurance guy was like, what do you need? And then the other guy said, well, I can't get a hold. Anyway, long story short.
Too late.
Sorry. A long story short is I talked to the insurance guy and I said, I don't want to go through the portal. Whatever you need to do through the portal, you do it through the portal. I have submitted everything. So if you have to do something through the portal, you do it, but I can't do it. And I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I mention that and this is not a lie. It is very difficult for me to process information on screens still. It's one of the residual, you know that. It's one of those residual things after benzodiazepine withdrawal. I have a lot of trouble with that. And so I just said there has to be another way because not everybody in the world is computer savvy. There's just not. So I sort of called it and said, this is not, there's got to be another way. And the second I said there's got to be another way, they said we don't have to do it this way. And everything was resolved immediately. So I think you handled everything professionally and beautifully. There are other ways besides the portal. There are. Yeah.
I think it gets more complicated when you're talking about
like a big
client,
company.
Vendor, and international huge conglomerate corporations where there's so much red tape.
I don't know. I've even done it at MailChimp, which is all automated. Right. I've also done it at MailChimp. I've also done it even with PayPal. I won't use their portal.
All right. So maybe you should come here and
I'll show you my superpowers. For real.
Whenever I have a portal problem, I'll call you and we'll loop you in.
But I like how you handled it. And that's really, we have talked about this. That's about setting a boundary. You weren't going to be, they would have loved to have strung you longer and longer and longer and had you do more and more work.
So I will say, in the defense of my contact who was helping me through this, he's been very genuinely dedicated to trying to help me get this resolved from day one.
I wasn't implying that he was being shady. I'm just saying it's, it's not his department. He's tried.
But on this, here's a similar story, same idea. This company out of Europe has been contacting me saying, we should work together. We do this kind of stuff and we do that kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, if I ever have the need for what you're doing, yeah, absolutely. But it turned out that they're part of another bigger company that I've done some voiceover work for. And them too, I haven't been able to get a hold of them and they owed me some money. They were overdue on their invoices. And I said, just out of curiosity, are you part of this? And he's like, oh yeah, we're the same company. I said, well, I've been trying to get a hold of people to pay these invoices. Can you please look into it? I woke up the next morning, money is paid.
Exactly.
It's paid.
That's the thing. When they need you, it can get done real fast. So I will also say this to you, Scott, that I love, person that I love so much. I don't handle my business like that. So that doesn't happen to me.
What do you mean?
I require payment in advance.
Right, yeah.
And maybe you can't get the whole thing in advance. I'm not telling you how to run your business, but maybe there needs to be. I was.
Pretty much are.
I was telling you. You're doing it wrong, man. You're doing it wrong. No, but for real, I require, like for a commission, a large commission that's going to be a couple $1,000s. I'm not doing a painting and then having somebody say, it didn't really come out the way I wanted.
And in that case, I 100% agree with you. And there are situations here at the studio where if you want to book time, you gotta give me a 50%
down,
deposit.
Non-refundable.
Because I've had people book time and then 2 months later when we're about ready to do it, they're like, yeah, I changed my mind. I'm like, well, so I've had that booked. I couldn't sell that time spot.
Right. By the way, spent your money. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like, it's gone.
Yeah. So I get
paid for my car.
I get that, and I do have a lot of times where I do require a deposit, and for new clients with the e-learning voiceovers and stuff, I do require either a deposit or payment in full
because that's you valuing your time and what you do.
Right,
I mean, that's you valuing.
In the case of this company, they already paid me once. But they did it through a credit card the first time because it was a small, quick thing. And they're like, yeah, we could pay with a credit card. But for the next one, we're going to go through the portal. And I was like, okay, all right. We've established they pay quickly. So, there's no red flags. It was like, all right, they get things done. And then everything went, pew.
Yeah.
But like I said,
back on track, though.
I woke up to like a dozen emails being, you know how it is, where everybody hits reply all, and it's like, wow, that was totally unnecessary.
Yeah,
it's
the
same
like what I was
email
saying about
12
my insurance,
times.
right? Like I was like, we can be done with these emails in 35 seconds, or you can keep going like this. So what was the learning then that came out of this?
Well, the learning was that I have to learn to not be afraid to put my foot down in situations like this because I try to err on being respectful and kind and professional. And a lot of times what'll happen is I end up losing out on something. or I end up just living with it. I end up just living with it.
You're training people how to treat you all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And this was the first time that I've really stuck to my guns and said, look, I can't work for you until this is resolved. And I know you have something to do, which I'm going to be happy to do as long as by next week, this is paid. And
do you not hear it though? Too. Do you not hear it on the other side? Because what that sounds like is my time is valuable and I want to work with you guys, but I'm not desperate for you. I mean, you might be, but they don't know that. But you know what I'm saying?
Like, it's desperate for everything.
Right. I can't do it, guys. And I got other stuff to work on. So figure it out and then I'm there for you. Yeah. But that's what it is. And it's not arrogance. It's actually part of that self-care piece. Yeah. You're look how it spreads you thin to have to try this over and over again. You've done your due diligence. Now they need to do theirs. Period. And if it doesn't work, to your point where you said, then what do you do? Just not take it. Why you wanna work with people like that?
Yeah, and this was kind of the discussion that I had with Kelly, with my wife Kelly, and she's like,
she's my favorite person I've never met.
We got to get you guys together.
I feel like we'll be a meeting of the minds.
She had the same kind of idea. Was why are you going to bother with drop them? And I'm like, and for me, especially, it's hard
when you're self-employed.
Yeah. And for me, I'm not, so there was another company that I've been trying to fire as a client for a few years because they were always terribly late. They wanted everything yesterday and didn't pay on time. And actually, because of the billing was so convoluted and weird, actually beat me out of a few $1,000s over the last 4 years. And so I was very happy when I didn't re-sign with them this year. And this
higher caliber clients.
Right. And this new company was better. They were, and I was like, all right, good. They're gone. This one's here. Let's cultivate that relationship and get it going.
This is no different than dating. Not that you've dated in a long time, but the work relationships are the same. And it's what you expect from people, how little you're going to require. Are you gonna, can they take you out to McDonald's and then you'll sleep with them? How low does it go?
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I'm just saying, like, what do you got? How much are you going to give that? How much are you going to give?
McDonald's.
I'm just saying, how much are you going to give them?
Yeah.
With them not return, without being it really reciprocal and comfortable. And I've really learned that in my professional, but I'm not so much in my personal. I'm at McDonald's. Just true confessions. My business boundaries are intact, and I'm pretty direct with people about that because I'm single and I have to pay for my own bills, and I don't have a spouse who's bringing in anything, so I really have to tighten that stuff down and get clear on it. It's personal, it's a little shaky.
All right, so you're next. So
I like that as a thing, and I just like what you're talking about, and it's a good reminder to value yourself. You do a very niche business here, and the word is out on the street that you do a great job. So you can pass on people. I know it feels like scary to do it, but you can. Next higher level will come in to fill that hole.
Gotta believe.
Yeah.
So, all right. So what's your?
Oh God, mine's guaranteed to bring you right down. We should have landed on yours. Well, I'm going to tell you. This weekend was a little bit tough. My parents and I had plans last week made to come in for the Clothesline Art Festival. That was an art show taking place here in Rochester. And my mom and my dad are both in their 80s. And I'm just fast forwarding along to say that I dropped them off at the festival it's hard to find parking in that by the gallery. And so I dropped them at the front gates, and then I went over and found my own parking, and we had agreed that I would come over and find them wherever they might be. And so I got in there and called my father and met them. And I'm not kidding if I say we were there 10 minutes, 15 minutes before my mother started to say she's cold, she's tired, My mom doesn't have great mobility. The ground is uneven there, so you're moving from like pavement to grass. She already said, I'm not going on any of the grass. My dad is really with it, like he's agile.
How old are your parents?
They're in their 80s. My mom's 81 and my dad's going to be 85. And so it's just they're not in this, they're not in the same place with each other. And so my father, well, I guess this is where I'm going with the learning, but long story short, we got there and it was very quick realization that and it had rained and it was kind of colder. And anyway, my mother was shivering and it just became really clear immediately that this was not going to work, that the day needed to end 20 minutes after it started. And so I really wasn't like disappointed about that or anything. Like it wasn't like, oh, this is this thing that I wanted to do that have never get to do. I mean, for me, it's another festival weekend, and I'm usually at festivals, so it wasn't like that. But I was a little disappointed because I just wanted them to walk around and have fun and have a beautiful day. But I didn't feel bad about it at all. My mother was really upset. She felt like she ruined the day for me, that she ruined the day for my father, that she was too much. We got back to my house. She kind of locked herself in the extra bedroom, just kind of chilled out. And 20 minutes later, she emerges and she's like dressed, coat on, purse on her shoulder. And she's like, I'm ready to leave. Let's go. I want to go back home. And so they had showed up at my house at probably like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and they were gone at 4 o'clock. So it was just a very short stay. And what it precipitated, if I'm being honest, was a little meltdown on my part about there was a real realization that my mother really can't travel anymore. She just really can't do it. She's more comfortable in her own home environment. She definitely has some memory issues that are becoming more advanced. She's way less comfortable out of her own element. My floor and my house does not have carpet. She didn't like the way that felt under her feet. Anyway, that led to conversation with my brother who lives far away. He lives in North Carolina about what maybe needs to be in place. And some of those things involved a cane, because she's not sure-footed. She cannot carry this big clunky bag with all her stuff in it anymore. She needs like a fanny pack or a backpack to even the weight instead of having one shoulder, down like this. It made us talk a little bit about, and I'm not trying to raise an alarm, if my family hears this. I'm not trying to say my parents are starving or anything like that. But, it made me think that my mother's not really cooking as much anymore. So maybe we need to get some like Meals on Wheels involved, Meals on Wheels, because my mom's not really preparing the food that she used to. And we need to call a doctor and just have them do maybe a new evaluation, because the last time she was really evaluated, it was a while ago, and things can change. So here's what the question was, and after I spoke with my brother, who then spoke with our father, and it was just really about how much to push. Like, how much can you push this? I want my parents out of their house, no matter what's way they enter this house. It's like 20 steps. They live in a raised ranch, so you have to go up steps either to the front of the house or you go into the house and you're going up steps. Maybe it's not 20, maybe it's like 12, but they're high steps.
Yeah.
And so I want them in their 80s move into assisted living or some kind of those, how they have those hybrids, like you can move into an independent living situation and then transition.
But they have resources and stuff.
Because somebody's going to fall.
Right.
And then we have an emergency. And so it becomes this thing of like, how much can you push? So all I really could do was express my concerns to my father and to my mother. And by the way, she should not be driving anymore. She should not be driving with memory problems. She can't remember certain things, doesn't know how to handle certain situations. So shouldn't be driving. So these are all the things that came up, and I just thought, how much do you push? Because my father's response to every single one of these things was, we're not there yet. We're not there yet. Like, it's making me emotional. We're not there yet.
Yeah,
and it's the same thing with my furnace. What are you waiting for? Everything to just fall apart? You're waiting for the fall? For the hip to break? You're waiting for the car accident?
Right.
When's the right time? How far do you push somebody when, and it really becomes like, how much, I can't force them to move.
Right.
just felt bad. And I was like, this is the furnace, people. This is your car. Like, things are breaking. And is that what you want? Things to just break all the way down. And then we have an emergency. And then you're waiting 6 months like it's not a car. You're waiting to get on a list to go. So I started catastrophizing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm asking you. Like, I have never been in this situation. Are your parents still alive and kicking?
Yeah. They're in their 80s
You're a little
too.
younger. So
My mom's turning 80 actually this weekend. And my father's 83.
do you have to talk about these things at all or not?
No. And so I have 2 older brothers that are down south. They're all in Florida. And
they're
they're always right there.
They're on it.
They're on it all the time. I would definitely do anything I could to pitch in or whatever. And we have quite recently had the conversation between a few of us saying, because they live in the villages and they'll drive over to my brother's.
To be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. It's like
Near
Disneyland.
Orlando. Yeah.
They-
I want to go to the villages.
They'll
Can I stay
drive.
with
They'll drive from their house to my brother's in St. Cloud, which is a little over an hour
Yeah.
or whatever. And or they'll drive down south to the Fort Lauderdale area where my other brother is, or across the state to his other
they're
house.
driving in their
but
80s.
and it's kind of like, all right, so at what point does this need to stop, or you know what I mean, like. And it is tough. It's a really tough.
I'm pretty clear
thing to
on where
navigate.
that line is actually with the
Yeah.
car. That's
Well, you
easier.
are.
Well,
You
that's
are.
easier because it's like if you can't articulate what to do if you're in an accident, you can't articulate what you need
Yeah.
to do, you can't drive.
And from what I understand, my parents are still like right on the
Sharp
ball
that way.
and
So
on
then the
top of
second
things.
question is, can you make the physical movements? Do you have the mobility? Do your knees work? Can you, if there's a reaction time kind of situation, are
Right.
you still reacting fast enough to do that kind of thing? And if you've got both of those things going, you can keep going.
Yeah.
I don't have either of those things with my mother. My dad is doing great, but he's aging as well. So anyway, it just became that thing. So I guess my learning was that what I just said, all I can really do is express my concern in a loving way, not a controlling way, not a like, I'm coming for those keys,
Yeah.
not like
Yeah.
that.
They have
but
to have
just-
that conversation.
and just hope that they hear that it's not coming from a punitive place or an angry place or a fear place, just that like things are changing and I want you to be here as long as you can be here. And I'm happy to honor whatever their wishes are, but I do think the important thing here is there's a disparity in terms of my parents' ability. So I just want, I hate to like be the one blinking the light there, but like there's a disparity there. That all I could do is just hope that they hear me and that they can process this information and make maybe some changes, maybe not all the changes, but maybe a few. Maybe we can get my mom a cool walking stick and she can stop carrying the clunky bag around.
Yeah, I
right?
think that's the way to go. It really, and I think with most things like this, and I'm coming from complete ignorance for the most part.
Same.
But gradually, phasing things in from how they are to where you see that they need to be, and doing it in little steps and increments, and each time having that thoughtful conversation, having that showing that it's coming from a place of love and concern. And
It just my father is the one who we've said it our whole lives. He's like optimist man. I mean, it's so great. He's just always sees through the glass.
yeah,
It's beautiful. He's the one like, you can do it, and I believe in you, and like don't you
entire
see the,
neighborhoods in flames.
right?
And it was
Don't
like,
you see the flowers?
just give me some water.
Right,
It'll be
right.
fine.
It's gonna be fine. And so my brother and I call him. I'm sorry, Dad. Call him denial man.
Aw.
But
Because
it's wonderful. It was wonderful for a long time, but then that strength becomes an Achilles heel of like, dude, it's not perfect. There is a little fire brewing here, and it's not so small, So that's the challenge, is how to have someone see it without having them feel afraid, defensive, and he's scared. He wants them to stay together for as long as they can. Doesn't want to face the idea of them having to go into separate situations.
Yeah, and I think, aren't there some organizations that
Probably.
that could help with this.
Yeah, well, feel free in the comments, people, because for me, I don't live in. They're in Syracuse. They're not local, so I'm not sure what they would be. But I'm sure if someone points me to some organization here in Rochester, there's got to be an equivalent nearby, right? I just don't know what they are, and it's like, how much do I get involved if he doesn't want to hear it? If they don't want to hear it, how am I going to really spin my wheels saying, "Oh, here's an organization that can do this or that," if they don't want it? So I'm gonna work on it a little bit. It's hard. Look how busy your schedule is. You really got time to do somebody else's stuff if they don't want it?
Yeah.
So you're supposed to wait till they ask for help and hope it's not too late when they do? I don't know. It's tricky.
So one organization here in Rochester is actually an organization I'm a member of.
Oh.
And it's the Greater Rochester Area Partnership for the Elderly, GRAPE.
Is that what it's called?
That's called GRAPE.
Well,
yeah.
that's just grape. Partnership with the Elderly.
And it's grapeelder.org.
Okay.
And
I'll call them and see if there's an equivalent in 90 miles down the thruway. I'm sure there are. It's going to be any of that elder care stuff. I had just been thinking like they're Jewish, so like the Jewish Community Center or those kinds of things. But that's probably a better way to start. There'll be a meta organization.
Yeah. Yeah, and they'll at least be able to help you, steer you in the right direction.
All right, so I gotta go.
even knowing the way to approach the situation, because you know that other people have dealt with this. It's not you're not inventing the wheel.
Yeah. I never feel like I'm inventing the wheel. What it feels like is it makes me feel like I'm going backwards into my childhood when my father says, enough, we're done with this conversation.
Yeah.
And then it's like, but we're not.
And really that's the progression of our lives. You start off dependent on your parents, and then you end up with them depending on you in a lot of situations.
The weird thing, though, I don't know how you are about this, but in a weird way, I'm like, put me in a home like that. Like, please let me live with other people, go to bingo, have book groups. Like, they're both pretty women.
You're like looking forward to it.
Put me in those, put me there. And both of them are like, no, we want to stay in our home as long as possible. Yeah. And I'm like, why? Yeah. Why do you want that? Because I'm more social and they're more like, there's the two of us, we're fine. But anyway,
I want to go to old camp. I want to go.
I want like Mrs. Jacob or Ms. Jacobson. You got to get out of Mr. Rosenblum's room. You don't belong in here.
Today's Salisbury steak day.
That's right. I love a good Salisbury steak. So like, I don't have to cook anymore. You just, but my parents are like, no, they don't want that. So we are different in that. It does feel a little, not like it's summer camp, but they don't, my dad's attitude is like, I'm not giving them my money.
Yeah.
I work too hard. This is, so this is what he worked for his whole life. And I can't push it. Anyway, you get the idea. I don't have any fast little tip today.
Oh, no.
I didn't come with them, but I did come with an ending.
Okay.
I just want to say, since it's Friday, I do want to let people know that this weekend is the Purple Painted Lady Festival in Macedon. 845 Yellow Mills Road. You cannot miss the signs. Like the moment you hit.
They're everywhere.
Oh my God, they're everywhere. And my work is on a billboard on 31.
That's
it's
awesome.
Very exciting. So I'm a featured artist this year. So I just thought I would shout out and let people know. I think I said it last week, but it bears repeating. This is the very last Purple Painted Lady Festival that we know of. Trisha and Steve have announced this is it. And so if you're somebody who's always said the whole time, I've never made it, but this is the year. This is the last year you have the chance. And I think you've got a little piece of my art. I didn't bring
And you
mine
can
in.
see this is something that you...
Just a quickie.
I
Life
love
doesn't
it, though.
get easier.
I love the exuberance of your artwork. And
Thank
it's just
you.
fun, and you always have a great message.
Thank you. It's whimsical.
It's
and I
even
am
a
bringing...
little kind of creepy, too, in a way.
A little bit. Always a little creepy. Whimsy with a side order of creep.
It's kind of like the Corpse Bride kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's cute, but it's also kind of scary.
Also a little dark. But I would say that's probably my
That's
like
you.
Yes. I mean, you know me well enough to know it's like I present one way and then like the cameras are off. I'm like, There's another reality happening there. But I'm bringing everything. I will have, prints and magnets and posters and tiles and did I say and prints and magnets and tiles.
Oh my.
And I'm designed a commemorative poster, so I'll be raffling that
Very cool.
off. And yeah, it's gonna be really fun. So, and Trish they always have food trucks and music all day long. It's just gonna be great. Saturday and Sunday. If you show up, it's like 9 to 5 the Saturday, 10 to I think it's 10 to 5 on Sunday. And then all the vendors jump in the pool.
Oh.
Yeah.
What fun.
I know.
Well, that's awesome. And of course, you can find Nene at rasjacobson.store.
Yes, please find me. If you can't make the show, my shop's open 24/7.
There you go. And rockvox.com for me if you have any need for podcasting. And I just have just picked a possible new client out of New York City. So, I can help you no matter where you are. You don't have to be local to be able to utilize.
Yeah, and let him help
services.
you, because if you're just as a quick, not that I'm trying to pimp Scott, but
Pimp.
If you're somebody who's always ever thought of doing Scott did my audiobook, and so if you're somebody who's ever thinking, oh, I've written a book or I want to do an audiobook, it doesn't cost. There was a guy that I met recently, right? And I met him at a festival, and he said, oh, that's probably $40,000. And it's like, that's not $40,000. I got a guy for you.
I mean, I could totally bill $40,000.
Absolutely. But then there'd be a portal.
Then yes. Then we'd have to have a portal.
Right. So anyway, but Scott did a beautiful job on mine, and I'll be sending more work your way. So
thank you. I mean, just half of the work that I've had in the last 2 years came from you anyway.
There's more coming. So,
well, that's it for this week. Have a great weekend. Make sure you go out to the Purple Painted Lady Festival.
Yeah, I'm in
Purple
Orange
Pink-
booth number 24 if you want to come see me.
Number 24. And we'll see you next week on What I Learned This Week.